Well, welcome everyone to our February 26th webinar, Iowa Organic Association webinar. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so we will be able to share it here in a little bit once I get to town and have faster internet. So we can get it uploaded as far as that goes. But yes, welcome everybody to our Iowa Organic Association webinar. We're excited to have Jason here with robotic milking on an organic dairy farm. This is something that I have a ton of interest in, although I have no ability, desire, or wherewithal to become a dairy farmer at some time. It's one of the topics that I love to learn about. So I'm really excited to have Jason with us today and go over that. Just real quickly about the Iowa Organic Association. We are a statewide nonprofit organization committed to organic education, outreach, and cooperation. And we have a wide variety of members across our organization, from farmers to farm support people to consumers that are excited and interested in organic in the state of Iowa. And through all of our membership and our sponsors, we are really focused on creating a better organic environment in the state of Iowa. If you look at the bottom of our slides here, you'll see this Midwest top partnership that we have. That is the Transition to Organic Partnership Program. And this is one of the main things that the Iowa Organic Association is working on, amongst the many things, is helping organic farmers or transitioning organic farmers make the transition. So we are able to support them through technical service that we provide through our farm advisor, Angie Richardson, who's on staff with the Iowa Organic Association, and also through a mentorship program. So we have mentorship pairs across the state of Iowa right now. We're working with 12 mentorship pairs, and those range from anything from agritourism to businesses to farms, vegetable farms, row crop farms, and also we have a dairy farm going through organic transition right now. They'll be shipping milk with Organic Valley in a few years, couple years now, I think, and they're working with a mentor in Northeast Iowa. So if you are listening now and you're interested in organic transition, this is something that we will be excited to help you with. We are coming up to the end of our webinar season because spring is right around the corner. So we have two more webinars coming up. The first one's going to be March 12th. That's soil health for organic farms. We're really excited about that one. We're going to have some opportunities to learn about soil health from on farm and from a farm perspective, and from our USDA soil expert, that Hillary Olson, who's going to be on with that one. So she's going to kind of go over the ins and out of soil health for us on an organic farm. And then we have a couple of farmers that are going to be able to come on and talk about that as well. And then we're going to talk organic apples and cider production coming up at the end of March. So put those on your calendars. We'll have registrations and emails coming up with those. But really, that's enough of me. I would like to turn it over to Jason, and we can learn a little bit more about his farm and what they've got going on. So go ahead, Jason.
Okay, so I'm just gonna. This is the first time I've done a webinar, I guess. So, but
Oh,
I'll just
perfect.
I'll uh, I'll start with kind of our overview of our farm. Like right here is where we're grazing, one of the spots we're grazing at. And then if you want to go to the next slide, then I'll just kind of give.
Absolutely.
So our farm, we have about 1,100 certified acres, and then we also do another 600 to 700 of non-GMO conventional. Um, like this coming year, we're going to have 230 of organic corn, 215 of organic soybeans, around 240 of hay, about 18 acres of wheat, 125 acres of soybean or oats, 60 acres of sorghum, and then around 228 acres of pasture. And that should add up close to what I said for the total. Um, we're milking around 100 cows. Right now, we're down to around 80 head, or a little bit less. We've got several to freshen in here in the next month. The robots are around 2 years old, and the grazing season is definitely a little more of a challenge. I mean, they're still herd animals, so they go out as a herd, pretty much. We've got some that are trained to go out and come back, um, but they still pretty much go out as a herd, graze, then come back in. So like we go in the morning, 7, 6, 7 o'clock, somewhere in there, they're going to go out and graze, come back in about 3 hours. Usually they're going to kind of stay in during the day. I mean, the door's open, but they'd rather stay in the cool. And then they'll go back out about 5 o'clock, and I'll bring them back in about 10 o'clock. And they kind of, we did just seed some new paddocks down. So I'm hoping that that's going to be a little bit closer and a little bit better, um, as we get going this next year with them on that. Um, the production is definitely up with the robots versus a parlor. I'd say a good 10 pounds. Sometimes it's more than that. We probably stuck with our nutritionist a little bit longer than we should have. I really liked him. He's a nice guy, but he just didn't understand robots. So we went to a guy that's a nutritionist, and he's also farms himself, and he's got robots. He just put in robots on his farm, and so it's I think that's a good mix. Um, some of the challenges we've had with this is my daughter and son, by the way, at the state fair. We had never had showed there, so that was just kind of something new to do. My wife wanted to do it worse than anybody, but anyway, we did have a good time there. And then some of the challenges has been the herd health. I have about 3 or 4 that are really high in cell count, and everybody else is really low. And I do think that is a difference versus the parlor. Um, the parlor we were consistently 100 to even under there at the end, and on somatic cell. And right now we're still not 150 range, but I'm holding out the top cows and putting them, feeding them in a calf milk taxi. And so I can. That is one thing with the robots. I have information daily on the cell counts, and I can look at that and put them into the milk taxi. And so that the information is really nice, but there is some herd health problem a little bit. I would say more with the robots than what we had in the parlor. So I'd say if you had the labor, probably parlors the way to go. But we were getting where the labor was getting harder to get, and the robots are a lot more flexible, very very flexible, and that part I do appreciate a lot. So I don't know. Do you want me to keep going or any
Yeah, go
questions?
ahead. I just a quick question that popped into my mind. So, what's your average milking and how much does it differ from when they're grazing in the summer? Because you talked about bringing them back in, to now when maybe they're in the barn.
Yeah. So like right now we're averaging 2.9 to 3.1 milking or average cow milkings per day. When we go to grazing, we're going to get down to that 2.3, 2.4 range. And and I'm sure that's where we're picking up some of the production. It did seem like we didn't fall off as much um, grazing as what we had before, and I'm not sure if that's for robots or the year. That's kind of hard to tell sometimes, but it did seem like we didn't fall off quite as much. So yeah, I guess that's kind of on that.
Okay, good.
Um, the fly control, I've looked at a fly vac. They don't make them anymore. I still think that would work out really well. We may try to make something with that. Um, right now, we're using a no fly, which is a repellent, permethrin, which is a killer, and an oil. And I'm going through. We do have headlocks in. The cows have a collar from Laley. We have Laley robots, um, and we have a good dealer. I do feel good about that, and we're close to Pella's within an hour and a half of us, so they're actually closer than the dealer is. Our dealer is Eastern Iowa dairy out of Epworth, and but we use the no fly, the permethrin, and the oil, and I do go through and spray about every 2 days, just everybody kind of lightly with that, and that did seem to work pretty good. Um, the maintenance costs are higher with the robot. Just and some of that's a robot. Some of that is chemicals have gone up a lot in the last 2 years, just in general. Um, and then we were breeding a lot for Angus on the to try to crossbred because those were worth more. Now it's the dairy's worth more, so we're using sex semen. We just started using that in the last year or a little
Okay.
more to get more heifer replacements, and we're going to do less Angus anyway till we get our numbers up like we want to be.
What is your
What
what is your number goal for the two robots?
I'd like to be in that 100 just consistently at 110. We visited a dairy that was 130 on two robots. They say realistically each one can do 60 head for with the grazing and the organic. I think 110 is pretty realistic with it. And we were above that. We've been above that, below it. For us, it just seems like that 110 works real well. So the guys that were 130 head were pretty much shut in all the time, and they've been at it for 7 years, which I can see as time goes on, you will get heifers that are, you know, they're used to that system and that's all they know, and it won't take them long. Right now, we've got a couple cows that take 15 minutes, and we could set it so they go less. It's kind of trade off for production and how you do that. So I can see over time you'll get to where your cows will get used to that system and do better with it. I really think so.
Did you have to do much culling to get cows that work with the robots? Or
Not really. We've had right now. I have one cow that has her back teats are kind of like that,
oh,
and
sweet.
we have to hold it on her. Um, and she's pregnant, so I'm going to keep her. And then we've had a couple. I mean, just high cell counts that we've gotten rid of. But as far as cows and type of cows that worked in the robots, I think everybody's adapted to that really well. We were a herringbone before, so they're used to coming in from the side, and our cows adapted really quick to the robotic milking part. That part is it's been pretty trouble free. I'll say that, and some will break down tonight. We haven't had a call at night forever. I mean,
Oh,
just
okay, great.
it. And my son gets those, but as far as I know, we haven't had any so for a long time. We had a
um,
few right at the start, but that once we got that kind of figured out, it's been going good.
okay. A couple questions coming in here. We'll just kind of hit them as we go through, if that's all right.
Sure, sure.
Um, uh, Larry Tranel asks, describe your daily work schedule when you first get up and how you do manage the pasture changes, pack splits each day with your system now.
What was the end of that? I
So,
missed the
like, the
end of it.
first part of the question is like, what's your daily work schedule
Mm-hmm.
with the dairy?
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of times I don't get up here till 6:30 or 7. And I might fetch a few. I mean, like right now we have maybe one or two to fetch. Uh, Clean the robot off, the arm off, provided it's not too cold. We did put two curtain, like we had one curtain this year. We put another curtain just over that curtain, and that seemed to solve all our problems as far as staying cold. We retrofitted our existing barn as far as where the robots went into a calving area and a treatment pen area. So they're just retrofitted into the existing freestall barn. Um, so I go and wash the robots. I change the filter, um, and then either I or somebody else scrapes the barn with the skid loader. I had that on this. I wish I had a scraper system. That's one thing. I just like to get the skid loader out of there. We still get hit some on the end of the barn and stuff like that. And so that's it. And then we go feed the calves and then go feed and stuff like that. I do have some full-time help right now, so actually during the week I'm not doing just a lot of that, and I'm letting them do that. McCain and I are doing a couple nights of a week, and then during the weekend I usually get full time then kind of, but it just kind of depends, and it's really flexible. I can't emphasize that much. It's really flexible. So
And
that
how are you managing your pasture changes, paddock splits, days?
Okay, yeah. So right now we just use a an alleyway, and then I have a white pole that we stick in and go to each paddock. Um, this next year, we worked with NRCS on seeding this stuff down, so we're gonna try maybe doing a like a back fence, so and just building the fence as we go to kind of what they need. I'm not sure yet if I want to spend the time up front building fence or if I want to just do it as we go. Because it seems like everything hits at once, and I like being able to just change a pole and go on. But I, as far as before, the cows would stay out maybe longer with the parlor and sleep, which now they don't sleep as much. They're out there and they're grazing. It's kind of surprising. The intakes might be a little better now, just because they're going out and grazing, and then they come back and milk, and so but they aren't sleeping out there like they were before. I will say that they don't sleep as much as they did before out there.
Okay.
Uh,
And do you have any idea on the average annual repair cost on your robots so far?
I'm not sure. I'm not very good at. I know mom would know that for sure. I haven't. I'm not very good at doing the checks yet. So
And you're
it's
2
kind
years
of
old, 2 years old into it, right?
yeah. Yeah. And
I'm like 20 minutes away from Pella, so they just do a great job there. There's no repairs, right?
yeah. I've sent dad up there once for a brush motor, and uh and then I fixed the one we had here with some gears, and the dealer hadn't been in them, but he just said, it wasn't worth his time to go in them, but he said it probably wasn't worth my time. So I've got a spare sitting on the shelf right now. But
Well,
other than
good.
that, it's been really, I'll say that, but it's been really trouble free since the beginning. So
Okay, awesome. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
was there? Yeah, I
No,
guess any
go
other
ahead. Yeah,
questions?
just back to if you want to get to your feed system and the
Okay,
slide here.
so this picture here shows that we did have to. So the hog slack guys, we got the bulk bins from them. He was not, he wasn't used to going above your head, and so Dad, I give Dad a lot of credit. He came up with the system as far as the to hang the line up there and into the barn. We wanted to be above the existing door, and so we just hung everything up there and split off up there. There's two lines running from the bins, and one goes to one robot and one goes to the other. They're on each side of the barn. And then we put vibrators. I don't think I have a picture. I do in my phone, but we put vibrators on the lines above the robots because we were having some trouble. We grind and mix our own. We don't use a pellet. We grind and mix, and we were having some trouble with plugging up there above the robot, and we put those on. They go on for 5 seconds out of every hour. Just a little concrete vibrator. One of my hired guys is a real good welder. He made a bracket for them on the PVC, and it works great. We haven't touched those things, and once we put them in, and we were getting up there about every day and knocking on them just a little bit to keep them going, but that's worked really good. And then the bulk tank, we had to put in a different bulk tank because ours was really old and it didn't have a built-in wash in place automatic system, I guess you'd say. So we had bulkheaded this tank out the west end of the wall and took our bulk tank out and sold it, and that's worked out really really good too. I think that's been a good change. So is that any other questions? I
Yeah,
guess.
on your feed ration. So, you just doing a single ration for all the cows milking at the time? Are you doing different amounts or per cow or?
Yeah. So the robot ration stays about the same year round. It's roasted or not roasted, just corn, ground corn, roasted soybeans, a little touch of bean meal, and then a little bit of liquid molasses. And that pretty much stays the same year round. And it's based on when they go in the robot, the computer and everything knows how much that cow's milking, and so it bases how much feed it gives them, how many times it's milking, um, and then how much it gives it there. But I'm going to say it's going to average 8.5 pounds a day is kind of the average. and some of them may get 12, and some of them may get 6 or 5. And then we feed TMR or PMR. You'd say partial because they're getting some of it in the robot, uh, in the bunk, in the barn, and that's getting a grain mix that's just roasted beans, bean meal, and minerals. And then we feed a haylage, a dry hay, a corn silage, and a wet kind of ground corn is what we're feeding right now. Then as they go in the pasture, we'll adjust everything down to compensate for the pasture. I'm shooting for about 35 to 40% on the milk cow ration during the grazing season. The dry cows and the heifers, they're all going to get, 80 to 90% pasture, probably for even a longer time too. Throughout the year, they get a little bit of dry grain mix just to keep them coming up good and stuff like that. But otherwise, they're getting pretty much all pasture. The dry cows go to another farm, and then right now they stay in a hoop building, and we feed them a TMR there. And the heifers are in a building that's open most of the time, unless it got really muddy. They get fed there. The pre-fresh was up in this barn. It's down now in one of the heifer pens, and that's one change. That we used to be in free stalls on our pre-fresh, and now it's just a bedded pack, and that works out a lot better. It really does. The cows like that a lot better. So that's one positive I guess we've picked up from that. If we ever do add on to this barn, we'll make it a bedded pack for the pre-fresh part.
And the reason you want to go with scrape, you'd like to add a scraper instead of, is that the skid steer, is that a labor thing or a?
I'd say it's both. It's labor, and it'd be better for the cows just to not
Okay.
have that skid loader in there. I mean, we still
Yeah.
add sand once a week, but it'd be better not to have that skid loader in there for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll switch sides here, but one question came in. Roman asked, were there any NRCS grants that you
Yep.
used to switch to the robotic system?
We didn't use it for
Or,
the robotics. We did
okay.
use it for the seeding. I did use some for the seeding. I think there are some available. Now, I'm not sure with everything that's going on how that's all shaken out, but there was some stuff available. We didn't. We just went ahead and did it our own way, and so that's kind of the way we did it. I think there's even some money available for waters and fences that we haven't got yet, but we were approved for it, I guess, on this new paddocks we
Oh,
put in.
sure. Yep. So you're
Yep.
doing like a grazing system plan type of
Yeah.
contract with equip.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Great.
And then this picture here, that must have been like 2 years ago, I'm thinking, because we weren't. It shows we aren't open here in the center, and we've got everybody grazing together and running together now. Um, but that shows a few in the fetch pen there, and then the one side was pretty much out. It looks like, and so I, I think that's once we get to running them all together, that seemed to work better too. It just everybody could run back and forth, and half of the herd I'll say will go to one robot or the other. They'll just kind of decide which one, and then some of them may just stay on one robot the whole time. So that's kind
Okay.
of yeah.
Okay. Great.
And then this was right when we were putting in the new robots. So you can see the picture on the left and the right. I think yeah, they're both actually on the right side of the barn, I'd call it. And so I mean that just shows kind of some of the new concrete. We we put water in the platform, and then we also put it in the room. And this side, we actually didn't think about it, and we hit it. We hit the platform with the gates from the robot that are not they're not on there yet, so we had to shut that off and run without it on that side. So
Okay.
that's just something to think about if you do put hot water in the floor that it's there. You got to pay attention to it. But we didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Hit it on
Yeah.
that side.
Before we get to some of this, a couple of
Yeah,
robot questions.
yeah.
How much labor do you think you saved or are saving relative to parlor milking?
Right now, I'd say It's quite a bit. I mean, but we're down below 80 head too. But I mean, I can do chores in a pretty quick time. Um, so I'd say we're saving 2.5 to 3 hours a day on milking labor at least. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard even to quantify it because it's so much different too. You still spend a lot of time there. I won't say you don't spend a lot of time in the barn. You still do. And I've got it on my computer here at home too, as far as just looking at cows and stuff like that. But the actual milking time is quite a bit less. Yeah, it's 2 to 3 hours for sure. I'd say. I don't. I mean, you don't milk a cow anymore. It's just it's different. It's different what you're doing. You never milk one except for that one I do hold on once in a while. So yeah.
Any regrets putting the robots in?
Mm, sometimes. There's part of me that still goes back and forth is could I put in a swing parlor for a lot less money? And my wife liked to milk, but she still tells me that she likes not getting up at 5 o'clock and so I just say if you had labor, I'd still probably go with the parlor, but if you don't, then I think the robots work pretty good that way. So yeah.
You
And I think
mentioned
they're going to get better as time goes on. I do. Our dealer said 3 days, 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 years, and here we are at two.
you
And
feel an improvement at all those times.
I do think that's going to kind of come. Yeah, yeah.
What about would is there any changes that you would make on how you set them up? Um,
Uh, I if I had the money, I'd build an all new barn, and I had a guy tell me to do that. And I can make the payment on the robots pretty easy. It'd be harder to make on the barn, but it's having a barn designed with the robots in mind would definitely be a big plus. There's no doubt about that. If you didn't have a good freestall barn, which we did, we thought we did, it's you kind of look at it and you start seeing everything wearing out on it too. So it's that one I would have to really weigh as far as doing a new barn versus redoing our old again. I would for sure weigh that a
okay,
little harder, I think.
okay, great. Now go ahead with this slide.
So this is we're seed. So I was yeah, that was down on the bottom where I was seeding. I'm really picky on getting things ready to seed. Uh, and even with milk or row crop or oats or anything, my goal is to yield as good as my conventional stuff. And I feel like I do that on the milk. I'm sure we're a little short, but yet some of the ones we visited, we're milking right with them. And the small grains, I feel like we're doing probably as good. The corn is where a dry year I can do pretty good. A wet year I struggle because I don't have that nitrogen there. The beans, I'm going to try to make them yield just as good as our other non-GMO beans, and we're right there, I guess. We did buy a new cultivator. We didn't get the guidance system going last year, so it sat in this lot all summer, and we ended up using our front mount IH cultivator to cultivate everything. And then the second time we went with the B&H, but this year we've got an Einbach, and we actually just took the hitch off today, and we're gonna get the camera going on it, and for sure have it
Oh,
going. So
camera guided Einbach.
yes, yep,
Okay.
yep, yep. I've got an Amish guy that loves to cultivate, and I love to have him do it. So I let him do it, and I actually didn't cultivate hardly anything last year, and he's going to be happy once we get that rear mount Einbach going. I mean, he was good with the IH. It was a front mount on a 4240, and he could cover. We're all 12 row 30 inch, and he could cover a lot of acres in a day. But he was also carrying a wrench with him on that old International. So, and then we still
Could
do.
you?
Or go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'll be interested to see how that does do. We've been hiring some migrant workers for soybeans, and that's getting cost prohibitive, especially with the price of beans right now. It just doesn't. I'm not sure it pays at all. And so I'm hoping that Einbach will help, by dialing it in really close and we flame and we tine weed. And I mean, we make a lot of trips, right now. I don't know if the row crop is actually paying very good just because of all the trips. The price needs to be a little bit better. Um, but but it's just something with the milk. I will say the milk right now they've brought the price up enough here in the last 2 years. I do feel like it's working pretty good. And the whole system I do think works good together. Uh, I've got maybe more hay acres than I like to have, but I just got to have that for the rotation and to keep everything kind of going. And I've got a local hay broker here that's pretty good about getting stuff sold. I maybe don't get quite the price I think I should, but at least he's getting rid of some of it, so I'm happy with that. And
Uh,
then we do still pick a little bit in the ear as long as Dad's alive. I guess we will. My son wonders why we do it. I still kind of enjoy to do it some too. So here they're actually shelling out a crib, I think, a couple years ago, and then this year we've
so
been
you're
grinding.
shelling it.
Yeah, we're shelling it right there. We've got a dad bought a sheller too, so yeah, we're shelling it, and we've got a cook sheller that's we've done some work on it. It'll eat it if you can keep it fed to it, but and
Okay.
then this year we're doing a lot of we're grinding the organic side for sure to the heifers, and that works really
Okay.
well too. We've struggled getting a grinder mixer because we bought a new green one and it plugged up right away, and we actually sent
Oh,
it back. The dealer was good enough to take it back. The company was not, but the dealer was good. Then we bought another Gale this last fall that we've got to work on. That's a really good one, but we're using our old Gale that's about rusted in two, but keeps going. So we're gonna get there hopefully. And then
right.
yeah, then the oats. This is oats from last year, and those probably made close to 100 bushel and had a good test weight, which I struggle with a little bit down here. We do put a fungicide, organic fungicide on them, and I think that's helped the test weight some. So that's I like to raise the oats. I wish they were worth a little more, but that's a nice kind of break in between there. So yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about you mentioned some of the crops you raise, maybe your organic rotation, and then how what fits in with the dairy, what crops you're using into the dairy?
Yeah. Okay. So we usually go 2 years or 3 years of hay, depending on how good it is. And then I usually go to corn, bean, corn, and then back to small grain, and then seeded down. Some of this ground on the bottom, I'm doing a shorter rotation. So like we're doing a corn, bean, sorghum, and then we might go back to bean and sorghum or oats. So we're trying to I'm not putting as much hay on the bottom like this field here that I showed. It looked really good, and then it just kind of and I've got some tile in it to drain it, but the water kind of got part of it here last year, and so it just ended up being a 2 year uh, down, and then we plowed it this last fall, and it's going to row crop again. But and that's the other thing we use manure from the dairy. I buy some beef manure. I was buying some hog manure, but that's getting harder to come by. It works good. I think it does work good, and they knife it in, and it's all there. But it's going to get harder to come by. It looks like in the future, and putting a hog building in is about cost prohibitive too. So I'm not sure what we're going to do there. If we're
Yeah.
going to have to
Yeah.
start making compost or what we're going to do.
The sorghum, are you harvesting that for grain or for forage?
So the sorghum we're doing for forage. I didn't. So it seems like I kind of go back and forth. So like this last year I didn't have any, but 2 years I had quite a bit, and we did two cuttings and we mow it with the mower. My older mower will mow it better than my newer mower. I've got two New Hollands, and the 1411 mows it like nothing, and the 313 struggles. But so yeah, this year we're gonna have a fair amount of sorghum just because it works for the rotation. Yeah, yeah, they're on the right. So sorghum.
There's your
That
sorghum
was
right there.
this. That might have been the second time we mowed that. We tried them. I've run shoes on the mower that are a little higher, so it mows it high, and it makes really good feed, really good feed. So I'm feeding it right now to the dry cows and the heifers, some of it,
Are
and then
you bagging that
we
baleage?
bag it. Yep, we bag it, and we do hire all our chopping done. That's a bill that's getting higher, like everything else. We used to run a uni to chop with, and that was a struggle. And we finally sold it and just hired it done, and they can do in a day what we used to do in 2 weeks. So it's a bill that's high, but yet it's money well spent too, I think. And then we're running a Great Plains 30-foot drill. We bought used here a few years ago, and that works really nice. It looks like it's a little soft there, but we tried to roll it ahead of time, I guess, to get the oats up. But yeah, that was. I'm not going to plant. I think I told you I'm not going to plant this year in February, but we did last
That's right.
year. We were able to plant just a little bit there at the end of February. So,
Great,
yeah,
great.
yep. And then this is the haying, and just that's something I love to do. I wish it paid a little better, but I just love haying. We've got two self or pull type mowers that are older. We rebuilt the bar on that one last year. We've got our own square baler just out of necessity. I still probably could hire it done cheaper, but it was hard to get him here when I wanted. So we've got one of those too that I was doing some custom work, but now I just do our own, and that's plenty. That's plenty. I had my first
Okay.
breakdown last year with it. Thankfully, I was able to call somebody up and they came and helped bale for one cutting. But that's something I enjoy that more than the row crop probably is the hay in
How
it.
many cuttings a year are you doing?
At least four, maybe five, depending on the field. We try to chop that first cutting, get in there middle of May, get the chopper guys here, and then it just kind of depends on the weather. Last year, I was 6 weeks to 2 months getting that second cutting made because we had a lot of rain in June and July. So when I look back, July we were the second wettest except for 1993. And anybody that remembers back that far, it was super wet here.
Yep.
So yeah, yeah. But we
And
had we had a
uh,
good crop. We really had a good crop. Some of my organic corn on the bottom struggled because of the wetness. I was able to chop it and still get decent tonnage with it, but overall it was a good crop. The conventional crop was probably the best we'd ever had as far as the corn goes for sure. But yeah.
so you're just chopping one cutting. You can put up the
Yeah.
rest dry.
Yep.
And okay.
Yep. Sometimes we depend on the weather. Sometimes we make baleage. It just depends on the weather, you know. I, I'm trying to get the hay acres down just a little bit because I've got a whole slug of round bales out there that a year ago they were worth a lot. This year they aren't worth, probably the time to haul them in there. But and then the square bales, I got rid of them pretty good, even though they didn't test maybe as good as they should have this year with all the rain.
Okay. Okay. And are you feeding square bales in your
Yeah,
TMR?
yeah. Then we're feeding a little bit to the dairy. Yeah, yep.
Okay.
And all the chopped haylage, which is a lot, right? I mean, we won't get through it this year for sure, but we'll
Okay.
try to keep feeding as much as we can anyway.
And all your stored forage is your bagged. You don't have
It's
any.
all bags, yeah, yep. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say that's the right way to go. The only thing is I don't have to climb up a silo, but
Or I just didn't know if you were doing bunkers or.
yeah, if you were a little bigger, bunkers would probably for sure be the way to go. I
Okay.
would think. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I want to open it up to questions, or I've asked a lot of questions. Like I said, I have an intrigue when it comes to dairy, but anybody else with any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. Or Jason, if there's anything else you wanted to add. I know one question that came up that I thought of was, were you milking twice a day prior to the robots?
Yeah.
Had you done any more than that ever? Or
Yeah. So we were just twice a day before, and I'm sure that's why we went up in milk because now we're averaging close to three. So that
Mhm.
that kind of makes sense. If you milk 3 times a day in a parlor, I'm sure you'd get greater production. So, but yeah, we were just twice a day before. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
and
And I
and
used
with
to
your
get well, I used to get Amish girls, or and then kind of at the end I got post high school girls. They were by far the best milkers, but it's just kind of like everybody else. They're getting where they wanted every holiday off and every weekend off and getting married, and it just gets to be harder, and you
Yeah,
keep putting
yeah,
that number. Well, Larry has a kind of spreadsheet you can work through, I think, and you just keep putting that labor number in higher and higher. That's just the way it's going to reality of what it's going to be. So, yeah.
yeah. What preventative maintenance are you doing on the robots? And you mentioned cleaning them daily. What other kind of daily
Yeah.
preventative?
So right now we're doing kind of just what the dealer tells us. He's got a list to go through he comes down every 3 months, and we're just getting where at first you're kind of overwhelmed by everything, because we're pretty good at working on stuff, but it's just kind of overwhelmed. But now I'm getting where he's showing us more how to do it, and so as time goes on, I'm going to kind of just take it on. I think is doing it, and he's wanting us to do that too because he's quite a ways away. But he's got a sheet, and then we just kind of go through that every 3 months. Sometimes it's a pulsator rebuild. Um, like this last time, I pulled some ropes out ahead of the cold weather and cut them off and cut them. I mean, it's just simple things like that you learn. Put Vaseline on the ropes. That keeps everything moving good. Um, and then it's just and rebuild the cup holders, which we do like once a year with the sand. But we've got a booster pump on our hose, and that keeps things pretty well cleaned off pretty good. So the one set I did, it was a good 2 years when I put the cups that hold the cups in, I guess. And so we're just kind of doing what he says, and kind of going along that way, I guess.
What you mentioned having your fetch cows, and you have a couple. How long? When do they get put on a fetch list for you after?
Okay, yeah. So you kind of learn how to look at that fetch list. So um, they get on there at 10 hours, but then I know which ones by 18 or 20 hours. Then I start actually getting concerned about them. Maybe 16, depending on which cow it is. Um, and so then you go get them, and we've got a pin that's the only way out. They have to go through the robot. And the heifers, I was gonna say the heifers, sometimes it takes you 3 days to train them. Sometimes it takes 3 weeks, or even a little longer. The cows, towards the end of lactation, they might start not wanting to go, and you'll have to keep them going just to keep them from drying up. But it seems like the next lactation through, they pretty much go on their own. So it's just I can see a point where it'll just be the heifers pretty much. You might have a cow once in a while, but usually something's wrong with her, like a foot, or she's not feeling well or something like that.
Okay.
So that's kind of what it usually shows up.
Now, I was in your barn this summer, but I'm trying to remember. They come out of the robots just back into the freestall uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
portion. So I mean, is there an option for like something like a grazeway gate, or where you could send them to
So
the
yeah,
gate?
the grazeway I'd have to set up. I would set it up outside, um, and
Okay.
then so when everybody goes out, they would go through that, and if they hadn't been milked in a certain amount of time, they'd kick them back to come back to the barn. So they had to milk
Okay.
before they'd go out. That's what McCain
Okay.
is. He sat on a thing where somebody had like a grazeway, and everybody at night went through that, and then they let them out for the whole night and stuff. So I
Okay.
we may want to get to that. And I know there's some grazeways at certain farms you go visit, and they're like, oh, I'll sell you that really cheap. So it just depends whether it worked out or not for them.
Sure. Sure. Great. Well, yeah. Keep. If there's any other questions, go ahead and put them in the
Yeah.
chat. But this is a great discussion. You're shipping with Organic Valley, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. We're with Organic Valley, and I feel they've been real stable and real good to. They know they need to up the price some because all our costs have went up. I mean, just it doesn't matter what it is, everything's went up. And but yeah, we still want the co-op to make money too. I mean, that has to happen too. And there's a point where it can only get so high on the shelf, and consumers going to buy it too. So we've got to have a happy medium between everything there to keep it all going. I think is kind of the way we want to do. They've been real good on trucking. I know they're subsidizing the trucking because it definitely costs more than what they're charging us. This has been the first year we've been approached by another dairy as far as taking our milk. So the demand is there, but it's just we're comfortable with where we're at Organic Valley, and just feel good about their future, I guess, kind of the way we are. So
Great.
yeah.
Back to the robots. You had any time where you've had one robot down over the where you've
Hmm.
just been on one robot, or they've just been pretty
Not
reliable as far as that
Yeah,
goes?
not really. I mean, anytime we've been down, it was like a vacuum pump needed clean, maybe just a little bit. I mean, nothing more than an hour at the most so far. It's been good, better than I thought it would be, actually. The first month we had a cable that kept giving trouble, and it always about 2 o'clock in the morning when it called. But after we got that worked out and figured out what was going on there, it's been really good that way. So
Great,
yeah. And
great,
McCain knows what to clean. That's some of the stuff we're learning to do preventative too, like the vacuum pump and the valves up ahead. They can't get kind of a gunk in them, and it's just if you clean them out, once in a while, and it doesn't take long, then you don't have to worry about it calling you saying that something's wrong. So yeah, yep.
great. Well, that's awesome. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in the chat, so I just want to take a second and say thank you to Jason and everybody for coming on.